can get past the mud, the country's quite beautiful, no?
Would you kindly shut up?
Hi everyone, I'm Johnny, and today we're taking a look at Passchendaele, a Canadian World War I movie covering the battle of the same name, which was one of Canada's major victories during the war. The battle would become one of the iconic quagmire hellholes that would define World War I fighting, and this movie gets this very right, but flops in other areas. The movie's strength is the depiction of the truly horrible conditions of the battle. Sadly, the movie does little to explain the battle from a strategic or historical perspective, so let's start there. The Battle of Passchendaele is also known as the Third Battle of Ypres. It lasted just over 3 months from July 31st to November 10th, 1917. The battle was a British offensive to capture the ridges south and east of the Belgian city of Ypres in West Flanders, with the town of Passchendaele lying on the last ridge east of Ypres. Capturing Passchendaele would put the Allies in a position to take a main railway supplying the German Fourth Army, and hopefully lead to capturing more coastline, along with more German submarine bases. The battle is widely known in Canada as the Canadians' capture of Passchendaele ended the campaign. However, the campaign was a massive joint operation involving 50 British divisions, including Aussies, Kiwis, South Africans, Southern Rhodesians, Indians, and men from the Caribbean, and yes, men from Newfoundland, which didn't join Canada until 1949. 6 French divisions were further involved, as well as remaining Belgian forces and civilian volunteers. Ypres and the small area around the Belgian city represented what was left of Belgium, unoccupied by the Germans. 5 major engagements took place around Ypres during the war. The famous Canadian poem In Flanders Fields was written here during Canada's role in the Second Battle of Ypres. Passchendaele was the third and bloodiest battle of the Ypres battles. Casualty estimates range between 400,000 and 900,000, roughly split equally between opposing forces, which pushed total casualties over 1 million for this remaining piece of Belgian territory. Ypres was one of the most dangerous and miserable areas for the British on the whole Western Front. They were surrounded on 3 sides, with the Germans on the high ground. The ground occupied by the British was prone to flooding. The area before the war relied on drainage systems that had been destroyed by earlier fighting. The opening day of the battle started with heavy rain, which would make every advance a nightmare, where troops drowned in the countless shell craters formed over the last 2 years of fighting. In mid-October, the British offensive was losing steam. The Australians had lost significant manpower. Their casualties would be over 38,000 during the offensive. At this time, General Haig sent for the Canadians to make a final push. Canadian General Sir Arthur Currie did state concerns he knew casualties would be high, estimating 16,000. He was slightly off. Casualties were 15,654. But the Canadians took Passchendaele Ridge November 10, 1917. The 10th Battalion featured in the film distinguished themselves at Passchendaele and just prior at Hill 70, receiving near 100 individual medals. However, no great strategic success came from the battle apart from an exchange of casualties. No breakthrough came, and the British later abandoned the position to better organize a defense in the face of the German Spring Offensive of 1918. The village of Passchendaele was, of course, destroyed. The movie captures the depressing setting very well. Unfortunately, the battle itself represents only about 1/5 of the movie. The movie starts with a short, intense action scene, followed by a very long and somewhat cliché romantic plot. There are some interesting and historic aspects to the love story taking place in Canada. The nurse and her brother suffer from discrimination for their German heritage, for example. Canada and America had massive German immigration populations at the time, and many Germans renamed their businesses during the war. Even cities and towns changed their names. Kitchener, Ontario, for example, was Berlin, Ontario. The name changed during the war in 1916. Overall, temper your expectations for a made-for-TV movie with some pacing issues. At times you'll feel like you're watching a low-budget romance, but then it's punctuated by extreme graphic violence. Alright, I'm Johnny. Thanks for watching. Do check out Passchendaele, especially if you're a Canadian. For me, it was a must-watch, but for many people, they might find the story a bit plodding. Let me know what you think in the comments section. And, Hit the like button for the cat. We'll see you next time. Have a nice rest of your day.